All right, back at it with another recipe. Today we're gonna be making some holiday Christmas cookies. So if you've ever seen those, what are those called? They're almost like cake-like cookies with the icing on top, and they got the sprinkles, and they always come out during the holidays. We're gonna be making some of those today. And so, kind of similar, kind of different. You guys will see what I'm talking about, but it's gonna be a lot lower in calories. It's gonna be higher in protein. It's still gonna taste delicious, and you guys are gonna be able to eat your favorite Christmas cookie and still stay on track with all your goals. And so we're gonna be doing that today. So these are all the ingredients that we're gonna be using. This is a mixing bowl. We're gonna be mixing all the ingredients together, putting it on a baking sheet, baking that. That's gonna create a cookie. And then we're gonna be creating an icing, which I'll show you guys what that will look like in a second. But for now, what we wanna do is 2 whole eggs. And I tried to make this as low calorie as possible, but this cookie recipe is one of those things where you can't really use egg whites. You have to use the whole egg. The yolk is so important to this recipe. And so we're gonna still include the yolk in there. It keeps everything bound together. It is more calorie dense than egg whites, but it's imperative. So 2 whole eggs for this entire recipe. We're gonna be adding in maybe a few extra calories per cookie. Not a big deal. And it will keep that cookie to be an actual cookie and not a freaking hockey puck that you won't want to eat anyway. So what's the point of making these low calorie recipes if you don't even want to eat them? So whole eggs are in. Then what we want to do is first we're going to beat that up. Not beating it up, but like beat the eggs until they're whisked nice. I'm using a fork. You can use a whisk, whatever you might want. Now we're gonna go in. I'm gonna start off first with all the wet ingredients and then add the dry ingredients as we go. So 2 whole eggs, be using about a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, which I just used the cap. You guys will notice in all my cooking, I like the eyeball test, which if you are a beginner cooker, especially if you're tracking your macros, which you should be with all of this, even though it'll be linked in the exact recipe, so you won't have to track it, you'll see exactly what each one is. But if you're new to cooking, please do use measuring cups, spoons, all that stuff, because a lot of these calories might sneak up on you. You might think you're only adding in a teaspoon, but you might be adding in tablespoons, or you might think it's a half cup, you might be adding 2 cups. So people have been way off. I've been cooking for a decent amount of time, so I kind of have a good eye for it now at this point. But if you don't, please use your measuring tools. We're gonna beat that up a little bit more too. Typically these cookies are butter cookies. So the Christmas butter cookies, I think that was the name I was looking for before. But the butter cookies obviously have a ton of butter, and that has a ton of calories, and that's gonna help you put on a ton of weight, and we don't want that. So we're gonna be actually not using any butter in this recipe. Gonna take away those calories, and we're gonna be substituting it with one of my favorite cooking ingredients, or even like muffins especially too, unsweetened applesauce. And so you're like, well, how is this butter compared to this? It's more for texture. So this applesauce will keep everything very, very moist. And then for the specific, like actual clarification of the butter, we'll be using things like Greek yogurt and some milk. But for now, we're gonna be putting in, let me grab actually a measuring cup for this one. We're going with 1/3 of a cup of unsweetened applesauce. That's all you need just to keep it moist. Make sure everything is level too. Don't be doing a bunch of these rounded scoops. That'll put in more calories. Don't cheat yourself is basically what I'm saying. Don't lie to yourself. Level it out, even it out. Be true to what you're actually eating so it can be as accurate as possible. So that's done. Now, we're gonna go with some more wet ingredients. This is our non-fat Greek yogurt. 0 sugar, Chobani, vanilla flavored Greek yogurt. It's important to use Greek yogurt as opposed to regular yogurt because it has more protein and less calories than regular yogurt. It takes away all of the sugar and all the BS that you don't want and gives you all the good stuff. And so we're gonna be going in with about 1/4 cup in there. Here I am, I psyched myself out. I'm using measuring tools now. I usually never do extra cleaning for me today, but it's whatever. That's gonna mimic the butter and then the moistness as well. And then because of that, it's a little bit more softer, liquidy. We're gonna need some more dry ingredients than typical because it is a dry cookie. It's not one of those like moist, gooey chocolate chip cookies, which we actually have a recipe to that also linked. Or if you want to check out the recipe video for that, it's also on the channel, so feel free to check that out. Gooey chocolate chip cookie. But that's it for our wet ingredients. And before we actually move on, we're just gonna beat that up a little bit as well. Just so that when we add, it's gonna look a little bit weird right now, but just so that when we add the dry ingredients, that'll be the determinant of do we have a good batter or not. Sometimes if you add too much wet ingredients at the end, after the dry ingredients, it's so hard to get it back to the consistency that you want. At least that's what I found. So protein powder is the start of this dish. It's gonna replace a lot of that flour that we don't want from our cookies, and it's gonna add in a bunch of our protein. So obviously, you're gonna have to use a really good tasting protein, and I am using the white chocolate spice flavor of whey protein from Axe and Sledge. You guys can use code RIDZIK10 for 10% off if you do so wish. If not, completely fine. Use your favorite vanilla-based, because we're making a vanilla-based cookie, vanilla-based protein powder. If you are vegan or dairy-free or whatever that might be, lactose intolerant, use a vegan option. There are vegan or vegetarian vanilla-based proteins out there. I'm going with 2 scoops, which comes out to 60 grams of protein powder right there, which is about 50 grams of protein right there. So that's awesome. We're gonna be doing this one at a time, okay? So, we're gonna keep this up. I am a big fan, well, I shouldn't say big fan, but for this recipe specifically, I like eating everything together as we add each dry ingredient. Make sure we're really checking in on the consistency, because for this cookie especially, consistency is key. We don't want it to turn into a pancake, which is very, very easy, especially since we took out that butter. So, eat it together. It's still looking very soft. Perfect. Now, this is cookie mix, which is gonna make it more like a cookie, which is perfect. This is more like almost pancake-ish. This is gonna really put it to be a cookie. So, this is actually from PB2, which I have used their powdered peanut butter for quite some time now, and they actually came out with a cookie mix. Beforehand, I just made shift a cookie mix, but this makes it a lot easier. And so we're gonna be using a cup of this, which I have roughly about a cup left anyway in here, but just for show. This is a half cup, by the way. So we're gonna be using 2 of these, and let's see if my guesstimation is correct. Let's see if I still have a good eye. So let's even it out. It's about half cup, and then this is another half cup-ish. I can fit some more in there. Yeah, and that's the rest of it. So my guesstimations are pretty close, but of course, use your measuring cups and devices if you don't have as good of an eye, or if you're a beginner, totally fine. And again, mixing that up. This is where we should start to see more solidification of our batter. Really mix it in there. You'll notice too, if you watch more of my cooking videos, for some reason, when I'm mixing, my body shakes with it. I don't know why. And I also like kind of lean to the side. I don't know why that might be, but here we are. All right, so this cookie is still a little bit wet, which is fine because we have another dry ingredient going in. We have our sugar-free vanilla, sugar-free, fat-free vanilla pudding mix. And so obviously if you have normal pudding mix in here, it's going to be very high in calories, a lot of sugar, a lot of fat. Now, it calls for a full packet. I only have this much, so I'm gonna be getting a full packet and I'll be back in a second. All right, so we're back and we got ourselves a full packet of this, which a full packet is 1 ounce, 28 grams. So that's what we're gonna be using. It's going in. Vanilla-based cookie. Obviously they have different flavors. They have cheesecake, chocolate, whatever else they might have. This is a vanilla-based cookie, so use the vanilla one. If you're making a chocolate cookie or like a milkshake or anything like that, I find that that's a fantastic ingredient to include. And the whole premise behind it is that it makes it like pudding. it's a pudding mix, and so it makes all of your shakes a lot thicker. It's also gonna keep everything bound together. There's like some gelatin in there that will help keep this cookie bound together. Awesome, so we got damn near perfect batter consistency where it's really thick, right? But it's not like, you know, dry. Because we noticed that, especially when using protein powder for cooking, it cakes up a lot more than you would think it would, and that's what we kind of want. So if we already make it like too dry to begin with here in the batter, when it goes into the oven, it's gonna really cake up, and then what's gonna happen is it's actually become way too dry. So it's either you're gonna have like super dry edges and like still batter in the middle, and then if you want to cook that entire center in the middle, the whole thing's just gonna be super dry. That's not what we want. So keeping it moist, I promise. You might be like, this is a little bit too moist for that type of cookie. It'll cake up in the oven, it'll be good to go. So that's it for the batter. If you want to make it a little bit sweeter, you can use some stevia. I'm gonna hold off on this for now. I'm not the biggest fan of artificial sweeteners, but I find that I'm also not the biggest sweet tooth. So if you do have a sweet tooth and you really want to make it sweeter, do not add regular sugar. A ton of calories, a ton of problems. Use something like stevia, Swerve, an artificial sweetener. Don't go too heavy on it, but you could certainly eat it and be fine. It's not gonna cause you cancer or nothing like that. So we're gonna prep a baking dish and then put it in there, then into the oven, and we'll get rolling. All right, so we got our baking sheet. We've got our nonstick spray. Just give it a quick little spritz. Don't breathe in any of that sprayed oil. Give it a second. Anywho. All right, so now it's just a matter of scooping and putting into the pan. And so you can just grab a large tablespoon if you do so wish. And then it's just a matter of scoop and pour. This is a small baking dish. We're gonna make a lot of cookies. And what we're looking for is we just want a tablespoon. Because they're gonna cake up, they're gonna be big. So just putting it there. All right, so only fitting that on here. This recipe is gonna make roughly 20 cookies. And so that makes it really easy on logging it for your macros. Pretty much you just add all the ingredients, and then for each cookie, you know, you would divide by 20. Or if you had 2 cookies, then you divide by 10, whatever it might be. So 9 cookies here. I'm gonna grab another baking sheet, and also put the rest of these on there. Bake it in the oven for 8 to 10 minutes. Check on it with like a toothpick at the 8-minute mark. If it comes out dry, good to go. If it comes out gooey, put it back in. The oven is set at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. It's already preheated, so it's good to go now. 8 to 10 minutes. All right, while those cookies are in the oven, we're gonna make our icing for these cookies. And so for that, we're gonna use now our artificial sweetener. I'm using this stevia, store brand, cheap, nice substitute. Gonna remove a lot of those calories from pure sugar. So we're gonna use that and a little bit of our Fairlife milk. And be all set. So it's just a matter of putting in about a cup of our sweetener. That's a half cup. Level it out. That's a full cup. It's gonna create a decent amount of icing as well. And we're just gonna drizzle on our cookies, make it look nice and presentable. And then a little bit of milk at a time, I promise. You don't want it too thin. So just a tiny little bit here. It's good. Start mixing that in. It's not gonna be perfect at first, just keep mixing and then add as need be. It's gonna look almost batter-like for right now. Keep mixing, it'll get there. It'll mix it in. You'll be surprised how little you need. And this again, if I didn't mention, this is Fairlife non-fat, high-protein skim milk. And so obviously non-fat, it's fat-free. So it's got 0 grams of fat, only 80 calories per cup, and 13 grams of protein. So very good here. Great option to substitute. If you don't like milk or you're lactose intolerant or whatever, you can use almond milk, oat milk, whatever low-calorie milk you decide. I would deter away from whole milk because that has a lot of fat in it, a lot more calories. I think per cup whole milk is like 140 calories. This is almost half of that. So yeah, so we really didn't need a lot. And keep mixing and it'll get there. It looked like it was not gonna mix at all, but just keep going. Make it to a smooth consistency. And to a consistency to where it looks like you can drizzle it on a cookie. And that's what we're gonna create. So keep going until it's smooth. Just get up, do whatever you gotta do. Lift it up, and that's a good drizzle right there. So that's the consistency we're going for. That's gonna be our icing for the cookies. So when they come out, we're gonna let them cool for a little bit, put our icing on, and then top it with some festive sprinkles, because obviously this is a Christmas cookie. We need to have it be festive. And so, you know, this has some calories in it. Don't go too crazy with it, but you know, a few sprinkles on it is not gonna kill you. So, a few sprinkles, our icing, cookie, good to go. All right, so we poked the cookies. They are good in the center. They're not gooey, so they are all done. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, this doesn't really look like a Christmas cookie. It looks like a cookie, just not a Christmas cookie. That's what we're about to do right now. We got our icing, got our sprinkles. I like to do this while they're still hot. Cool it off a little bit, but it's just a matter of getting a nice scoop here, drizzling that on, and just letting that pour off to the side. One scoop, pour. And while that's drizzling off to the side, now we give it a sprinkle on top. And then what I'm gonna do is throw this in the fridge so everything solidifies itself to let it cool off. And then that'll be for about 5-10 minutes. Once that's good, we'll try it out. Right, so the cookies are done cooling off. Look at this. Tell me that doesn't look like Christmas cookies to you. That is what I'm looking for. So we're gonna try these out right now. Remember, it's like a cake type cookie. So that's exactly what we're looking for. A little icing on top. Let's give it a try. Chocolate chips. Pretty good. Pretty solid. That's a chocolate chip cookie that'll keep you on your goals. And just for reference, remember, this recipe makes 20 cookies. And so you can have 5 cookies for like 300 calories, 400 calories. Matter of fact, I'll be more exact. I'll put the macros on the screen right here. And that just goes to show, imagine you can have 5 cookies and still lose weight. That's what I'm looking for this Christmas. So anyways, that's our Christmas cookie. That'll wrap it up for this episode. If you guys want more recipes, go check out the channel. I got a bunch of them. One of my favorites, especially during this time of year, is raspberry cheesecake. That'll be up there as well. So I'm super excited to share that one with you guys. But for now, I'm gonna eat these up. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace.